So though the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator search for the Alabama Crimson Tide is complete, I don't believe that means Nick Saban is done making moves. And today, we need to talk about and break down a move that the Alabama Crimson Tide and Nick Saban made this weekend, bringing in an experienced offensive analyst in John McNulty, who's not only coached at a ton of different institutions in college football and in the NFL, but just got done serving as Boston College's offensive coordinator. Today, we need to break this move down and talk about why I think it's a compelling hire, but before we can, as always, y'all know the drill, I have got to hear from you. Hop down to the comments, give me a Y for yes or an N for no. Are you excited that Nick Saban hires John McNulty as an analyst? And let me know what you're thinking. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Hit that bell notification. I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it. And if you enjoyed the content, be sure to like and comment down below. Those interactions seem small, but they are massive to content creators such as myself, and both getting picked up and maintained by the YouTube algorithm. And we're on a push to 20,000 subscribers. I'd love to have you a part of this amazing community. But having said all that, let's jump right into this. And as I stated in the intro, I do find this to be a compelling hire for a few different reasons, and we're going to break them all down. But one of those reasons is the experience that John McNulty brings to the table, both in college and at the NFL. And it's not just the institutions or the level that he coached at. It's the fact that when we break down this list, he's coached several different position groups, and I do find that to be an intriguing factor, especially if you can get that guy in as an analyst. But let's really break down the experience that McNulty brings to the table, because he got his coaching career kicked off as a graduate assistant at Michigan, and from there, he moved from Michigan as a graduate assistant to Connecticut wide receiver coach. In 1998, he made his entrance into the NFL, where he was an offensive quality control coach for the Jacksonville Jaguars. However, he quickly moved from offensive quality control to wide receiver coach with the Jacksonville Jaguars. In 2003, he took the same position with the Dallas Cowboys, and in 2004, he went back to college to start working with Rutgers, where he worked as the wide receiver coach. In 2009, he made the jump back up to the NFL, where he was coaching wide receivers with the Arizona Cardinals, and he remained there until 2012, where in 2012, he remained with the Cardinals but moved from wide receiver coach to quarterback coach. In 2013, he started coaching quarterbacks for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. In 2014 to 2015, same position with the Tennessee Titans. In 2016 to 2017, he moved to coach the Chargers, except this time he was tight end coach. In 2018 to 2019, he went back to the college ranks, coaching Rutgers as the quarterback and offensive coordinator. In 2019, he made the move to Penn State. In 2020 to 2021, he was the tight end coach at Notre Dame. And finally, in 2022, he was the offensive coordinator for Boston College. So as I stated, this is an individual that has got a supreme amount of experience both at the collegiate level and at the NFL level. And I've already stated this, but I wanted to dive into it. It's one thing to be experienced at both of those levels, but it's another thing entirely to have the familiarity that McNulty brings to the table with so many different position groups, both in college and in the NFL. That is a factor that I do find compelling. And though all of this experience is fantastic, there's one stop in particular that we need to hone in on. And that was that Notre Dame stop where he coached tight ends. And if we look at the tight end production while he was there, it was really effective. But the reason we need to break down the Notre Dame stop for McNulty is because when he was tight end coach for the Fighting Irish, their offensive coordinator was the now offensive coordinator for the Alabama Crimson Tide, Tommy Rees. And those two already have a familiarity with one another. Tommy Rees is an individual who is a young guy in college football, but is heralded as a really bright up-and-comer on the offensive side of the football. So if you can position him with a coach that already has familiarity with him, they've already worked together, and in McNulty's case has been this experienced in the game of football, I think that's an absolute win. And especially, not only when you look at Alabama's roster, but if you watched the Super Bowl last night, there's a reason you should be very excited for this. The Super Bowl last night proved something I have been saying time and time again, and something that really perplexed me through the previous two seasons for the Alabama Crimson Tide, which was the lack of tight end usage. And sure, Cameron Latu had a great stint with the Alabama Crimson Tide as their tight end. He was phenomenal. But when Bill O'Brien got there, I thought we'd see a heavier dosage of the tight end. And last night, when you watched the Super Bowl, you realized that these offenses, these high-power offenses, yes, they've got phenomenal weapons on the the outside. Running backs, check. But both the Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs had difference makers at the tight end position, and those tight ends were making big boy plays. If you look at Georgia, their tight ends are making big boy plays, and the Alabama Crimson Tide has got a very talented tight end room, and it makes me wonder, not only with the addition of Tommy Rees, but now with McNulty coming in as an offensive analyst, what does this mean for that tight end room? And personally, I think it means you have to be very excited for what that room could put together. One thing you've probably heard me talk about at length on this channel is that if you have a new offensive coordinator, check, and you're breaking in a new quarterback, check, the offensive coordinator and quarterback's best friends in the world can be great running back play and great tight end play. And luckily for the Alabama Crimson Tide, I think the running back room is really interesting. Jahmyr Gibbs will be missed. There is no doubt about that. But Jace McClellan is a very gifted back. Roydell Williams, very gifted. Jamarian Miller, very talented. Not to mention the guys that are coming in who you need to be very excited for. And on top of that, whenever we look at the tight end room for the Crimson Tide, they just got in a big-time transfer. C.J. DePire transferring from Maryland to Alabama, and there's a reason they went out and got a tight end transfer, even before they knew who the offensive coordinator was going to be, because they realized they were going to be breaking in a new offensive coordinator. They realized we are going to have a new quarterback, and that's the one position that we don't have any experience at. Now, make no mistake about it. Though I don't think that Alabama has that much experience at the tight end room outside of C.J. DePire, that does not mean there's a lack of ability in that tight end room. Guys such as Danny Lewis and Amari Niblack, I think could be poised to really take off under the direction of Tommy Rees and with McNulty as an offensive analyst, because I think those two guys right there are straight up mismatches. And don't get me wrong, it's certainly not just Danny Lewis and Amari Niblack that have the opportunity to really see a rise in production with both McNulty and Tommy Rees. Guys like Miles Kitselman, guys like Elijah Brown and Robbie Oots could all see their production increase, and the question will inevitably have to become, which one of these talented tight ends is going to be the guys we see ultimately step up this upcoming season? But at the end of the day, I think this is a compelling hire. I really do. We can look at the offense for Boston College and acknowledge that it left a lot to be desired. That was not a great Boston College offense by any stretch of the imagination. However, the one thing they did do well was pass the football. And I'm not trying to use that as excuse, but they did pass the football well. That was about the only thing that offense could do with any sort of consistency. And whenever we're talking about what Alabama needs to do going into this season, there's a lot of questions about the wide receiver room, and that's something that McNulty can help in. Even though he is an analyst, he brings so much experience to the table. And that's why I think this is such a compelling hire. Not only has he worked with Tommy Rees, not only has he worked with tight ends, wide receivers, quarterbacks, he's worked at colleges, he's worked in the NFL. I think when you put together the experience and the experience working with the new offensive coordinator, this is a great hire in an analyst capacity. Hop down to the comments, let me know what you're thinking, because I am super interested to see what Alabama's tight end usage will be next year, and I'm interested in hearing from y'all. Do you believe we're going to see an uptick in how much the Crimson Tide uses the tight end? Let me know what you're thinking. That's it. See ya.